Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide, a reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that there are 3 ways to launch a ship into the water? Join the USS Nautilus, the first nuclear submarine, on its maiden voyage, traveling 1,830 miles beneath the Arctic ice cap on its way to the North Pole.
Okay, so imagine this for a second. You're a naval commander, it's the early 1950s, you know the rules, you know how the ocean works.
Right.
Submarines are these, cramped, diesel-chugging tubes. They have to come up for air every single night. They're basically surface ships that can, hold their breath for a little while.
A few hours, yeah.
And then one morning, January 1955, a signal comes across the wire. And it just changes everything.
Underway on nuclear power.
That's it. Just 4 words. But if you're on the other side of the Iron Curtain, those 4 words are absolutely terrifying.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
Yeah.
It's one of those very few moments in military history where you can draw a hard line and just say, okay, that's the before and this is the after.
Right.
Before that signal, the ocean was a place you visited.
Mm-hmm.
After that signal, the ocean became a place you could, live.
And today, that is what we're talking about. The machine that sent that signal, the USS Nautilus. And I'll be honest, when I opened the folder for this deep dive, I was expecting, technical diagrams, some Cold War history.
And we have that.
Oh, we have that. We've got specs from the Pioneer Institute. We've got history from the BBC. But then I found something in the stack that just threw me for a loop.
You're talking about the theological paper.
I am. It's this deep spiritual reflection that draws a direct line between the nuclear reactor of the Nautilus and the Holy Ghost. I mean, I had to read the title twice.
But stick with us on this, because when you actually break down the engineering, this whole idea of an internal, unseen, unlimited power source, the comparison is surprisingly profound.
Okay.
It gives you this really unique window into how people in the 50s were trying to make sense of this new, terrifying atomic age.
So that's our mission today. We're going to try to understand the engineering miracle that was the SSN 571. We're going to meet the absolutely obsessive man who basically forced it into existence. And then, we're going to try to wrap our heads around that philosophical curveball.
It's quite a journey.
Let's start at the beginning, or I guess the beginning of the boat itself. January 21st, 1954, Groton, Connecticut.
The setting here is important. It's the Thames River.
Mm-hmm.
And it's January in New England, so it's freezing cold.
Oh, yeah.
And you have thousands of people gathered at the Electric Boat Shipyard. This was not some secret project in a bunker. This was a spectacle.
And right there, front and center, is the First Lady, Mamie Eisenhower.
Right. Which tells you just how important this project was to the administration. She's there to christen the ship, and she does it in the most traditional way possible, breaking a bottle of champagne right over the bow.
I've always wondered about that. Is it just for show?
Well, it's a superstition, really. Goes back centuries. It's supposed to bring luck to the ship and the crew. And honestly, for a ship like the Nautilus, which was basically a prototype with a nuclear reactor inside a metal tube, you probably wanted all the luck you could get.
No kidding. Now, this is where I got a little stuck in the reading. I've seen movies where ships launch. It's always that huge dramatic splash where it slides sideways into the water.
Launch, yeah.
But our sources go into this weirdly specific detail about launch mechanics. Apparently, you don't just push a submarine into the water.
No, absolutely not. Launching a ship is an incredibly dangerous piece of engineering. You're taking thousands of tons of steel that's been sitting on solid ground, and you're moving it into a fluid environment in, a matter of seconds. If you get it wrong, the ship can capsize or just snap in half.
Wow. Okay, so the sources mentioned 3 ways to do this. I want to walk through them. The first one is the stern-first method.
That's the classic, the oldest way. You build the vessel on an inclined slipway. It's basically a ramp.
Yep.
The ship is held in place by friction and these huge brakes. When you're ready, you release the triggers, and gravity just takes over. The ship slides backwards, stern first, right into the water.
Okay, so that's option 1. Then there's the side launch. This is the one I think I've seen in the World War II documentaries.
You definitely have. During the war, they were building ships so fast, and a lot of the shipyards were on rivers or canals that weren't very wide.
Ah, so you couldn't shoot it straight out.
Exactly. You might just smash right into the opposite bank, so they launched them sideways.
That just sounds chaotic.
It is violent. The ship enters the water broadside, makes this massive splash, and the whole thing rocks aggressively side to side. It looks terrifying, but it stops the ship's momentum almost instantly.
And the third way is the float out.
which is by far the most civilized method. You build the ship in a dry dock, which is just a big concrete basin. When it's done, you open the valves, let the ocean flood in, and once the ship is floating, you use tugboats to just gently pull it out.
So for the Nautilus, the most advanced, expensive, high-tech machine the U.S. had ever built, which one did they use? I'm guessing the gentle float out.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But no. They went with tradition. They used the stern launch.
They slid a nuclear reactor down a ramp.
They did. And just think about the physics of that for a second. You have this 300-foot-long object sliding down a track. As the back of the ship hits the water, the stern starts to float. But the bow is still stuck on the ramp.
So it's bending.
It's putting a massive amount of stress right on the middle of the hull. The engineers had to be absolutely certain that hull was strong enough to take that force without cracking.
That is a lot of trust in your welders.
It is. But luckily, the hull held. Mamie smashed the bottle, the ship slid into the Thames, and she floated perfectly.
But, and this is a big but on the timeline, just because it was in the water didn't mean it was working.
Correct. That's a common misconception. Launch day is just the day the hull gets wet. The Nautilus launched in January 1954, but that famous signal, underway on nuclear power, wasn't sent until January 17, 1955.
A full year later, what were they doing for 12 months?
Testing. Everything. I mean, remember, nobody had ever put a nuclear reactor on a moving vehicle before.
Right.
They had to install the core, test the cooling systems, train the crew, check for leaks. The commissioning, where the Navy officially accepts the ship, that happened in September 54, but even then they were still just tied to the pier running tests.
And the man cracking the whip during all of this was Hyman G. Rickover.
The father of the nuclear Navy.
Reading the profile on this guy, he sounds intense. The sources say he was dedicated, but you can feel this undercurrent. He wasn't just a manager, he was a crusader.
He was a force of nature.
Yeah.
You have to understand, Rickover was an outsider. He was born in Russia, came to the U.S. as a child, worked his way up. In 1947, when he was put in charge of the nuclear program, most of the Navy brass thought nuclear propulsion was a pipe dream.
So he was fighting his own bosses.
Constantly. He faced skepticism at every turn. People thought putting a reactor underwater with a crew was just suicide. Rickover didn't care. He was obsessive about safety and quality control because he knew that one accident, just one, would kill the program forever.
The outline says he delivered the Nautilus years ahead of schedule. I mean, in government work, that's basically a miracle. How'd he do it?
By sheer force of will. He bypassed bureaucracy, he handpicked every single officer, and he drove his contractors relentlessly. He demanded perfection. There are stories of him interviewing officers and essentially just breaking them down mentally to see if they could handle the pressure. He created a culture where mediocrity wasn't just frowned upon, it was absolutely forbidden.
And the result was this ship, the Nautilus. Yeah, let's look at the specs for a second. We're talking 319 feet long, displacing over 3,000 tons.
It was a leviathan compared to the U-boats of World War II.
And the speed, the notes say more than 20 knots, about 23 miles per hour. Now, I drive a car. That's school zone speed. Why was that so impressive?
Because water is incredibly dense. Pushing 3,000 tons of steel through it is hard. But the speed itself wasn't the real headline.
Okay.
The headline was sustained speed. A diesel sub could maybe sprint at 20 knots for an hour before its batteries just died. The Nautilus could do 20 knots forever.
And this gets us to the game changer part, the air problem. I feel like this is the piece I didn't fully grasp until I read the engineering notes.
It's the key to everything. Conventional subs use diesel engines. A diesel engine works by, exploding fuel mixed with air. No air, no engine.
Which is why they had to surface or use a snorkel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A literal tube sticking out of the water to suck in air. And that makes you visible. It's a tether. You're leashed to the surface.
But a nuclear...
It's completely different. It uses fission-splitting uranium atoms to generate immense heat. That heat boils water into steam. The steam spins a turbine, which turns the propeller.
No air required.
Zero. You're not burning anything. The source notes say it used tiny amounts of fuel. A lump of uranium the size of a golf ball has the energy of, train cars full of coal.
So the Nautilus could stay submerged for unlimited periods. The source literally uses that word unlimited.
The only real limit was the crew.
Right. How much food can you carry, and how long can the crew keep their sanity without seeing the sun? That became the new bottleneck. And to prove this, they decided to do something that honestly sounds like a Jules Verne novel. Operation Sunshine, the run to the North Pole.
August 1958. This was the ultimate test of Rickover's vision.
I want you to set this scene. Because when I think of the North Pole, I think of snow and ice. I do not think of a submarine.
Okay, picture this. You're on the Nautilus. You're deep underwater. Above you isn't open water or sky. It is a solid, shifting ceiling of ice that is anywhere from 10 to 50 feet thick.
So if something goes wrong,
If you have a fire, a reactor leak, any kind of emergency, you can't surface. You are sealed in a tomb. You either find a crack in the ice or you die.
that is terrifying.
It's incredibly claustrophobic.
Yeah.
On top of that, your navigation is a nightmare. Magnetic compasses are totally useless near the North Pole.
Why is that?
The magnetic lines of force go pretty much straight down into the Earth. Gyroscopes get confused. They're basically navigating blind, relying on these new inertial guidance systems to even know where they were.
But they made it. 1,830 miles under the ice cap.
They did. They passed directly under the geographic North Pole. It was a massive propaganda victory for the U.S. in the Cold War. It proved we could put a missile platform anywhere in the world, undetected, even under the Arctic ice.
So we have this triumph of engineering. Rickover's obsession pays off. A crew conquers the most hostile environment on Earth. And that brings me to the strangest transition we have ever done on this show.
The theology?
Yeah. I mean, usually when we cover military history, the sources are tactical. But here we have a text that looks at the Nautilus and says, you know what this reminds me of? The Holy Spirit.
It is jarring at first glance.
Yeah.
But I think I understand what the author is getting at here. They're looking at this new reality nuclear power.
Yeah.
And they're trying to find a spiritual corollary.
Walk me through the argument. How do you get from uranium fission to John 14.26?
The core concept is internal power versus external circumstance. So think about the diesel sub again. It is completely dependent on the outside world. It needs the air above the surface to survive.
Right.
Its power is limited by its environment. The Nautilus is different. It carries its power inside itself. It's self-sufficient. It doesn't care if there's a hurricane on the surface or if there's ice everywhere. It has a power source that's unseen, internal, and, well, effectively unlimited.
And the author's argument is that a person of faith is supposed to function like a nuclear sub.
Exactly. The source cites John 14.26. But the Comforter shall teach you all things. The argument is that the Holy Ghost acts as that internal reactor. It provides strength and guidance that isn't dependent on your external situation.
So just like the Nautilus can cruise under the ice pack because it isn't relying on surface air, a person can navigate a crisis because they aren't relying on, say, external validation or comfort.
That's the analogy. It's about being underway on spiritual power, so to speak.
It's fascinating because it takes the cold, hard science of the reactor, which we usually associate with destruction, and reframes it as a source of sustenance.
And it highlights a very human tendency, you know? When we invent a new technology, we immediately use it as a metaphor to understand ourselves. In the industrial age, the body was a machine with pumps and pistons. In the computer age, we talk about our brains processing data. Here in the atomic age, the author is using the miracle of nuclear propulsion to explain the mystery of faith.
There's a question in the source that really stood out to me. It asks the reader, would you like to travel underwater in a submarine?
That's a great question.
Because on the surface, it's a simple yes or no. But after reading about the North Pole run, that question feels heavier.
It is heavy. Because traveling underwater requires total surrender. You have to trust the machine, you have to trust the crew, and you have to trust that invisible power source that you can't see or touch or fix if it breaks.
And the theological text just flips that right back to the listener. It's asking, what is powering you? And do you trust it enough to go under the ice?
It brings up the issue of direction, too. Rickover built a ship with unlimited range. It could go anywhere, but it didn't decide where to go. A human being, Commander Wilkinson, had to steer it.
That's a powerful distinction. Power versus direction.
Right. The Nautilus had the power to sit at the dock forever. It had the power to drive in circles. It took a conscious choice to point the nose north and dive into the dark. And the theological argument is similar. You might have access to this unlimited spiritual power, but you still have to put your hand on the wheel.
Power without direction is just churning water.
Precisely. And in the 1950s, with the arms race heating up, that question of where are we steering this thing was on everyone's mind.
It's amazing how a stack of documents about a submarine can end up being about free will and purpose.
That's why we read the eclectic stuff.
So what became of the Nautilus? She survived the ice. She survived the Cold War. Where is she now?
Well, she had a long life. She was finally decommissioned on March 3rd, 1980.
Wow, 26 years of service.
which for a prototype is just astounding. Usually the first version of anything is buggy and gets replaced fast. The fact that she ran for a quarter century is a testament to Rickover's obsession with quality. She traveled nearly 500,000 nautical miles.
And they didn't scrap her.
No. In 1982, she was designated a National Historic Landmark, and in 1986, she went home. She is currently docked in Groton, Connecticut, at the Submarine Force Museum.
Can you go inside?
You can. You can walk the decks. You can see the cramped bunks where the crew slept while they were under the ice. It's a museum piece now, but it still feels alive.
It's a real full circle moment. From that wooden ramp in the Thames River to the top of the world and back to the Thames to rest.
And in between, she changed the world. She proved that humanity wasn't bound by the atmosphere anymore.
It leaves me thinking about that unlimited power idea. I mean, we live in an age now where we have access to pretty much unlimited information, unlimited connection. We're all sort of underway on nuclear power.
We are. The old constraints are gone.
But the question is still the same as it was for Commander Wilkinson in 1958. We have the engine, we have the fuel, but do we know where the North Pole is?
And do we have the courage to go under the ice to get there?
That is the thought I'm going to be chewing on for the rest of the day. If you want to see the footage of the Nautilus, especially the videos of life on board, which are fascinating, we have links in the show notes. We also linked that theological reflection if you want to read the full argument yourself.
It's definitely worth a read.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. Keep your compass calibrated, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for joining us for this day in His story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in His story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.